Want to get the mic on. There we go. Okay, I'm calling the regular meeting of the Historical Commission to order on January 18th. It's approximately 7:02 p.m. Can we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Collins?
Here.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Here.
Commissioner Klinger? Commissioner Morocco?
Here.
Chairperson Morocco? Commissioner Worsted?
Here.
And Commissioner Zaremski.
Okay, well, we do have a quorum, so we'll get started with it. Can we get a salute to the flag? And I guess I'll lead you guys today. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As we start off each meeting, we read our mission, which is to investigate, maintain, and catalog all historical information, documents, records, and pictures that would be of general interest to the city and its citizens, to compile records and recordings, to promote the keeping of a written historical record of the city in narrative form, to be an advisory body, and to perform volunteer services at the Redondo Beach Historical Museum. So that's our mission. We have 3 announcements that I would like to get in before we actually approve the order and agenda. One is, you may see in the audience, we have a resignation of Dan Comiato. We're saddened by that resignation, but anybody who's interested in the public in applying for the position, we encourage you to do so. The second announcement is on Saturday, January 21, between 11 and 3:30, 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. We have a Charter Day celebration. It's our 74th Charter's anniversary, and we're going to be open from 11 to 3:30, so encourage everybody to come and attend to that event. And the third thing, and Mr. Doug Thompson is here, he's one of the presenters, is that the library is presenting a program about Redondo Beach during World War II, and if you want to say a couple words about it, please come up.
Is this right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, back in October, we had Ashton Politano come and present his book. You'll like it here. He's taken scores of early 20th century newspaper articles about Redondo Beach, slightly fictionalized them to what he thought. What he did was look for some deeper truths in these regular stories that were appearing out of Redondo Beach. And during the question and answer period after Politano's presentation, someone asked, well, where can I find out more information about the Spanish flu epidemic in Redondo Beach, 1918 to 1920? And my colleague and I, Ed Martinez, had done a whole book on it in 2020 during the COVID. The library was closed during COVID, so we had done a whole book on it. So we just looked at each other, and the library, the woman in charge of programs, the program director, that's her title. The program director said, well, why don't you do a presentation too? So this coming Saturday, 11 to 12:30, we'll be presenting the book on Redondo Beach in the First World War and the Spanish flu epidemic. The First World War, I mean, the second, yeah. So it's 1917, when the United States declared war on Germany, April the 6th. It's 1917 to about 1920, and that's the subject of the book. And Ed and I will both be presenting it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And if anybody wants to attend, it's 11 to 12:30 in the second floor meeting room.
Yeah.
If you go into the lobby in the library, out by the elevator banks, you'll actually see a flyer over there as well. So hopefully you can attend that and then attend our open house as well. Okay, and then.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we move on to approving the order of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the order of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Cullen move, Commissioner Fernandez second. Any public discussion on it? Okay, not seeing any, and I assume we don't have any Zoom participants?
There are no public comments.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay, our order of agenda is approved. We move on to the next item, which is the blue folder items. Do we have any blue folder items for today? Okay, that's a no shaking of the head, so
There's
we're
no
moving
blue folder
through
items.
the blue folder. Now we move to our consent calendar, and I'm going to ask commissioners if they want to pull anything from the consent calendar. I'm going to be pulling a number of items, but do any of you want to pull any items from the consent calendar?
No.
Okay, I'm going to pull the approval of minutes, the moment in Redondo Beach history, and the museum donation fund and facility report. So those things are going to be moved to the excluded consent calendar item, and I'll explain why I did that shortly. Is there any discussion about approving the affidavit of posting?
No.
Okay. Any public comment?
There are no public comments.
Okay. So the only thing we're approving on the consent calendar is the affidavit of posting. Can I get a motion?
So motion.
What?
Motion.
Commissioner Fernandez, a second.
Second.
Commissioner Colon, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay. Now we move to the excluded consent calendar, and I'll go by item, approval of minutes from December 21, 2022. As you will see in the consent calendar section, we do not have any minutes to approve today, so I think it's appropriate to just table that until the next meeting. Any discussion? Any public comment?
There are no public comments.
Okay, so I'm making it as my motion to table it to the next meeting. All those is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Fernandez, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay, so that's tabled. Similarly, on item F3, moment in Redondo Beach history, there was no moment that was prepared. I don't know if Commissioner Cullen wants to talk about anything with regards to that. We've had some impromptu presentations. If there aren't anything, then let's say so.
I think maybe I'll save what I want to discuss for the next meeting.
Okay. Then I would make a motion to table the moment in Redondo Beach history to the next meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Commissioner Cullen, any discussion? Any public comment?
There are no public comments.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to table the moment of Redondo Beach history to the next meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Okay. Now we go to item F4, museum donation and fund and facility report. You do actually have a copy in your materials, and I had a couple of questions and one correction on this. Where it has a museum fund section, it has a beginning number, and then it has an addition, and then it has the ending number the prior year. So I think there's a typo there, and I just want to clarify if there is or not.
Yes.
Okay. And I think it would be helpful in the future reports. Not everybody in the public will know what when the fiscal year starts. I assume you're using October 1st, 2022 as that date. July, okay, so even I don't know what it is, so maybe you need to add that in there that it's July. And that would answer my second question. The Arcadia Publishing number, is that all the royalties that we received since July?
I think that is an old number. I don't think there've been any new royalties.
Okay, so this fund report, is the ending number correct? I mean,
I believe so.
so how do we get from the beginning to the end? Is it, what's the addition?
Do those two numbers don't add up?
10,777.02 is not the same as 11,143.
Well, when you add 366.42,
You said we didn't get any royalties. So that's my question.
well, the fund report is the balance, right? So if the total is 11,143.44, the two sources that make up that number are an old number of royalties. Well, they're both old numbers, actually.
Okay, so again, sorry, I'm
So
an
do you
accountant.
wanna
I'm
know-
an accountant, so I look at, you start off with the beginning number, you add something to it, you end up
No,
with
no,
the.
that's not what that is. It's not that something was added.
It was subtracted.
No, those are two separate accounts and the amount in those accounts.
What, we have the available balance at the bottom, then we have publishing, and then we have an opening balance. So
Right.
Publishing costs subtracted from the available balance from the previous year.
Maybe what's confusing is it shouldn't be called opening balance. It should be called, oh, I see what you,
It's reversed.
no, it's
No.
because it should be labeled something else. It shouldn't be labeled balance. It should be labeled whatever those two accounts are.
Because what I'm getting from this is we have $11,000 that we could be spending.
Yeah.
Well, but that's fiscal year 2021, 2022.
He said that was a typo.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting at. So it may be the presentation, and I can work with you offline to come up with
Okay.
a much more detailed. We used to get publishing reports, just so you know, and I thought we were getting paid at least annually. And
What?
we used to get reports from the publisher.
Oh,
And if you look at some of the old agenda packets, you will see that. But the reason I'm asking specifically on that is we have that system set up where people can buy the books from the, either the museum or from the community services office. And we have the advertisement out there now, so it'd be nice to be able to know how we're doing with that overall. So, and then also the donations line, it doesn't have anything with it. So I know we have had some donations and we need to talk offline about how to get that into the system so it's counted. Come by the museum Saturday. I'll
talk
show
about that
you.
offline, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And the other point I want to make is, okay, so the Historical Museum events hours are there. We're going to talk a little bit about keeping the museum open later, but it also has the Morale House in there. So those are the two facilities that are historical in that Dominguez Park area. So that's kind of where we're at. So what I'm looking for here is a motion to receive and file the museum donation fund and facility report with the notation that it will be corrected if in the future months to a report that's a little bit more helpful.
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Cullen, is there a second? Commissioner Worstadt, any discussion? Any public comment?
There are no public comments.
Do we have anybody on Zoom, by the way?
Myself?
Okay.
Do you have a comment?
If we do get somebody on Zoom, just tell me so then at least I'll, okay. All those in favor of receiving and file the museum donation and fund and facility report as will be modified, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so that's received and filed. Now we get to the part of public participation of non-agenda items. This section is intended to provide members of the public with the opportunity to comment on any subject that does not appear on the agenda for action. This section is limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to address the commission. Each speaker will be permitted to speak only once. Written requests, if any, will be considered under this section. So does anybody wish to address this commission? Okay. Any Any Zoom comments?
There are no Zoom comments.
Okay. So because there's nobody in the public that wants to address at this point, we have concluded the public participation on non-agenda items. Items continued from previous agendas. We do not have anything that's there. Item J, items for discussion prior to action, and we're going to start with the Historical Commission committee reports. So I will suggest that everybody turn to item J1 in their materials, and we'll start with the Budget and Fundraising Committee. Is there anything to report?
No report.
No report, okay. Museum Committee, as far as I know, there's no report, although we will be talking in staff referrals about the storage, care, and maintenance of the museum itself. Outreach Committee, Redondo Beach History Makers, we've kind of said we were going to have it. Do we have people lined up to come to these meetings and talk?
I don't have anything set yet. No, I do not.
Okay, you have anything?
Not yet, haven't heard back from Jen.
Does it make sense to make a list of possible invitees that you two can
Yeah.
compile together?
Absolutely.
And did you want to talk about your idea for the history makers at this point in time? Do you want to save that for later?
Sure. So my idea is, of course, the public is welcome here during our scheduled historical commission meetings to do a presentation. But I had this idea of extending that to the museum ahead of each time that we're open so that they can come in and perhaps they have a trophy or an article or just a story they want to share. Sometimes their, great-grandfather owned a business on a corner lot in North Redondo, what have you, just more of a welcome invitation to the museum. And if they wanted to participate, have their photo taken with an item that they bring or an article, then I can do some type of a write-up and a scrapbook to keep in the museum of all the guests that have come in and shared some of their stories and items with us. It's like a show and tell.
So people who come to visit the museum on their own, we would ask them if they have a story that they want to share, that we would then tell at a commission meeting. Is that the idea?
Yes, or just a flyer when we're open so that they have the knowledge to reach out to people who have not visited or on a repeat, the guests, the people that attend, just visiting.
Okay.
Like when we are open.
Oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
You want us to prepare a flyer that we could have at the museum that announces we're looking for these people to tell their stories either at the museum or at a commission
Or
meeting?
in a meeting, absolutely, exactly that.
Okay,
Yes.
I get it.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're going to start working to develop the concept?
Yes.
Okay, and you'll present it at the next meeting? or-
Yes.
Okay, great.
That,
And then on the events, speakers, and special exhibits, as I indicated during announcement, we have a Charter Day program set for January 21st, 2023.
excuse me, I mean, we could have it at the library too, right?
What?
That flyer.
Yeah, you can work with the library, the head librarian.
The light bulbs
Work
just,
with them.
see the lights gone off with all of them.
You guys are the commissioners. There are lots of places where you could put a flyer like that.
Okay.
Okay, well, can you find out from the library how we get it that we're
Man, all you have to do is, don't they have flyers all over the place? I don't mean you specifically, but any of you could.
Maybe me?
Any of you.
All of us?
I mean, if you're gonna
Who's
wait,
in?
if you're gonna wait for me to do it,
Uh-oh. But you like the idea. I see this.
well, I mean, advertising the work that you do is a great idea. Yeah.
Okay, so
right.
if
Well,
that could be part of
well, I mean-
your development of
Sure.
the proposal to us so that you include how we go about
We
doing
can
that.
definitely have some at the Performing Arts Center.
Yes, well,
That I can do.
Thank you.
okay. So let's go to events. As I said, Charter Day is coming up. We have also Redondo Beach History Day, which is March 11th, 2023. One of the ideas I was kicking around for that is kind of create family trees and an opportunity for people that live in Redondo to create family trees. So like Commissioner Cullen's family's been here for probably over 100 years at this point.
Since 1910.
Yes. So it would be kind of nice to kind of see some of these families who've been here for a long time and how they're expanded out and everything. And I'm sure you know of other families that have also been here a while, and I can think of like, Pat Dreisler's family is a while, and they can also spread out. But it's also something that can involve the high school students. They can learn about creating family trees and what they need to do to create oral history. So it doesn't have to be all about history of Redondo Beach, but it can be about the people in the city. And that's kind of where I'm leaning towards, but what?
See, trees in Redondo, after all.
Oh, listen, on my mother's side alone, the family tree is more than 10,000.
Wow.
And nobody gets on that family tree unless there's a birth certificate, a marriage certificate, a baptismal, a picture, it's all documented. It's on, I forget the name of the ancestry.com. And it includes Linda Ronstadt.
There you go.
Yeah.
And on top of it, you can probably bring your cousin that wrote the book about it that kind of talks about the early family history in the community.
Yeah, my mom who grew up with Cesar Chavez in Yuma, Arizona, we have pictures of him 4 years old that probably nobody else has,
So you had a comment?
So along with the idea that Commissioner Warstadt had, you could also do a request for proposals for family trees and define a criteria. So if your family has been in Redondo Beach for longer than 50 years, 1,000 years, whatever, and you bring in, pictures or some other kind of historical record, have a day when maybe you hire someone who is good at this, putting a family tree together. And they can keep a copy for themselves. I mean, maybe it's on poster board, maybe there's a better way to do it, whatever. And then we would keep some kind of a record of them at the museum. And during your history day or whatever event you want to have during the year, you post a bunch of them or you put them up.
Mm-hmm. And it's a project that we can actually probably do jointly with the Historical Society, which you may like as well.
I love partnerships, yes.
Yes. So just give me some feedback on that concept if you like it, because there's a lot of different ways we can go with Redondo Beach history.
I do. And maybe we can do something like advertise that we want people who have attended like the local elementary schools or Hillcrest, Paris, to bring their little class picture and we can scan it and get a record of it. I'm sure there are a lot of people still in Redondo Beach who have their grade school class pictures and they could bring it and we can, scan it and keep it at the museum and maybe separate it by school and just have people come down and let us take a picture of it. I think that would attract a lot of attention.
Okay, well.
Does our current catalog of the collection tell us what photographs we currently have?
We can't get into that computer yet to see. Again, it's really old. I don't think they even do software for it, so.
So are you telling me that we don't have a usable catalog?
I'm telling you that we did not actually have the resources to actually go in and say, okay, this is what's supposed to be here. This is what, here. We have stuff that's at the museum. We have stuff in City Hall that we think should, at least Pat Dreisler thought it should be part of the museum collection. We have stuff in storage. So it's. So to answer your question, I'm not sure.
Okay.
The closest that there is to it is that library scanned a bunch of the postcards and pictures for a project, and they used some of the resources at the Historical Museum to do it. But to answer the question, we haven't had an actual opportunity to do it. That's one of the reasons we had the clippings and collections people for the strategic plan to be able to do it.
Okay. I thought that the collection had been started, but because the software was so old, it was no longer usable.
No, it's just the
It's possible that there's-
It's like Windows 7. So,
Right, but it's possible that a collection has never been started at all.
oh, there is a collection started, and I've been told by the person who was a former chair of this commission and is now with Public Works that was her project to get everything cataloged.
Oh. And it's on a software that we can't use. Is that right?
It's on a computer that, I don't know if you can access it or convert it. I'm not an IT specialist.
Okay.
But there is something out there, and I'm not even sure if it's accurate. And until we actually finish cleaning up everything in the museum to the point where we actually can go room by room and say, okay, check this off of it. A lot of places, you know, have this ability to scan and code everything and put it into a perpetual inventory system. We haven't reached that point level of technology. As a matter of fact, the comment about the scanner, we don't have a scanner and we don't have a computer to scan it off of. So one of the discussions points we'll bring up later is we still are waiting to set up something with IT so that we can at least even get one of their old computers that they're no longer using because they're upgrading to the point where we could do something like that.
We have 11 grand. Let's just go buy
Yeah, we
it.
were so deserving.
Right?
We were very deserving.
You two go shopping and get us the scanner and whatever we need.
There's a technical problem if it's not hooked into anything. So it's a much bigger scale than that. But when we get to the staff referrals, I will share with you my thoughts on it.
Well, I'll bring the router.
And we still have to get the
I'm
display
looking.
case,
I'm looking.
which we've already approved to do.
I know.
Okay, so April 29th, going back to events, April 29th is our Redondo Beach birthday celebration. Commissioner Cullen, if you could reach out to Councilman Narenheim, who thought it would be good to partner with us on such a thing and see if you can start floating some ideas with him about what
Like we need money,
we have money right
more
now.
money, more money.
But how do they want to present it? We're in a totally different world than we were 3 years ago when the last time we had a birthday party, because you can't pass out cakes and things like that and have the typical things you used to have in a celebration. It's just people may not.
Are we going to focus, because we're the historical commission, are we going to focus this celebration at, say, Dominguez Park?
The whole park itself.
Okay, the whole park.
And if the Redondo Beach Historical Society wants to partner in on it, great. I mean,
Okay.
I think they've done it in the past because the city kind of restricts certain types of foods and they have a little bit more flexibility in it.
Okay.
Okay. And then you are coordinating the art of Cesar Hernandez.
I am, and I wanted to bring up one thing about that. At last year's event, there were people who came into the museum who were asking if the artwork was available. And at that time, we didn't have any copies of it. So maybe with the $11,000 that we have, I know that there's a facility down in Oceanside that might be able to copy the artwork. And I don't know if, as a commission, we're interested in having that facility at least make one copy of the watercolor paintings of City Hall and the city buildings and Redondo Union High School, and keep it at the museum, or ask if, somehow they can make copies and then We sell them at the museum if people are interested.
Are you allowed to make copies?
Yeah. Yeah, you just put it face down and hit the button.
It's, it's somebody's work of art.
Yeah.
It's
But I own
copyrighted.
it.
But
He's dead, and I own it.
No, it doesn't work that
okay,
way.
so
You can't,
let me suggest.
I don't approve of that.
We'll give it away.
You bring that to the Public Art Commission and see what they say about that. No, we don't copy people's art and sell it for our
Not
own
just say
profit.
that.
No, we could sell it at cost.
But
Just to create goodwill.
Right.
so there's I forgot what Nina's last name is. but She does the Cal 101. She did the book for that. Maybe have her get in touch with Commissioner Cullen to figure out how to put together a book on what permissions that they use. And she's been a resident of Redondo, I think, more than 30 years. Why is my microphone? Anyway, it's the time to start exploring your ideas with it. And I agree with our liaison that you may want to talk to some of the public arts people because they may actually have some ideas on like putting together a coffee table book, for example, of the artwork. And
do what with that?
people will, want it.
Oh, buy it. So you'll be selling, we'll let the public arts people sell the book, but we won't sell
I
copies of it.
assume that the family is still around this area and with a little bit of effort, we can reach out and find out who actually is controlling the estate and see if we can get permission. It's not the most impossible thing to do.
You guys are lawyers, right?
I was just thinking that.
Right.
Come on.
But we need to get to them with the easel. so
Yeah,
we
I mean,
figure-
that would be great if you could get permission from the family or whoever owns the copyright to his work to create something. That could be a good use of your funds, either as a fundraiser or as,
So Gary, just so that you know,
Oh, there you go.
all the artwork was commissioned directly with him and sold. I mean, there are no copies of this artwork anywhere else. It's all original artwork that was paid for, commissioned and paid for.
right, but I still don't think you have the right to copy it and sell it. He still has
He has a copyright in it. You're right in that.
he still has intellectual, the artist's visual act or whatever. They still
Fortunately, we have a
just because they
classmate that
sell,
does this stuff.
just because an artist sells a piece of art to you, that doesn't give you the right to then make copies of it and sell it. I mean, you can.
Just won't have you at the museum that day. Okay, next subject. Let's
There are
move on
nuances,
in the
but
That's a
agenda
good
here.
subject for legal research, which I am not qualified to do, and some of you might be.
So the point that you're actually making, and we've been getting throughout, is we really do need to prioritize how to spend our money and what do we need to spend it on.
Right.
So when you're doing your proposal, if we're looking at this history day for the family trees, we need to come up with some numbers so our budget person can say, okay, we can do that and track it. But we need to set up our own priorities in doing that. So, and we also need to be able to get easels again. So just figure your count on easels so we can do another.
Okay.
And you saw it was set up last time.
Yeah, it was beautiful last time. So we have 16 pieces of artwork. So
And maybe you can get the big piece again.
Those are all yours?
what?
They're all yours?
The artwork?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's cornered the market on Cesar Hernandez art.
It's all in the house.
Nice.
Yeah, okay, so that's dealing with, and then one other event. So, the water wheel that's outside the museum? maybe we need to kind of, since Valentine's Day is coming up, promote that as one of the most romantic spots in the city of Redondo and get people to come to the area over there so they can see the museum, as well as have a place that they can take a nice romantic picture in front of.
The water wheel?
Yeah, the water wheel outside
Okay,
that overlooks the baseball field and the parking lot.
okay.
So that was just something that came to me today, but that's something that we may want to think about, because it's a nice way of getting advertising on something that doesn't require us to stay open. Okay, now we get to the bringing history outdoors. The Path of History and virtual Path of History, we are still making efforts to get 2 markers going again to get fabricated in addition to 2 they already have up. One of them is going to be the old City Hall and old firehouse. That's over where Benicia used to be. And the other is to get one at Aviation High School. So if there's anybody here or in the public that would like to make a donation to make those 2 markers happen, there are, if you look at the cable TV channel, there's flyers, there's a slide that deals with that. We have it on the city website. I would like to, Mr. Margolis, I'd like an opportunity to meet with somebody who can actually tell me how we can get the virtual Path of History. So we have markers already in the community that we would like to be able to post onto the Historical Commission's website. And we have some future ones that, so people can see this, so that people can see, even if we don't have the money to actually physically put one on the ground, that these are the markers and these are the historical events.
I can do that. If you schedule a time with me and you have all the materials that you want, we can do it together.
Okay. So before our next meeting, I'm going to schedule a time with you.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, then the Redondo Beach history timeline. I did a mock-up for the Recs and Parks people on that we already approved the concept of it. My art's not that great, but they gave us some dimensions and a price that they think that the sign shop can do. So hopefully we can at least get that project moving forward. And then bringing history outdoors again. I think we talked about it, the last meeting was the sculpture by Mr. Vogel that he has in Long Beach that maybe we can bring to Redondo. One of the thoughts was we're going to bring it to Public Art so they can talk about whether that's a sculpture that they want to put at the transit center. But it's an opportunity. We've been talking about putting a mock model of a red line in one of the pads over at the museum. Thanks to Mr. Margolis, we've actually have a good story, and maybe one of the options is to see if we can do a documentary about all the red line cars that have submerged in our bay over there and kind of have a whole big red line documentary. That's something that we can put out. Maybe high school students, for example, may want to be interested in that. Okay, so that's the committee reports as I see it. Did you hear anything from Commissioner Klinger about the Wilderness Park at all?
No.
Okay. Yes.
While you're on the museum, you might, the fountain is not going to be replaced. It's gone. So you might want to have a meeting or have a liaison meet with the Historical Society and decide if you want to come up with a concept for what you would like to do in that area. You might want to approach the Public Art Commission and ask them to consider a sculpture park there where they would commission a variety of sculptures with historic themes,
Okay.
including a discussion about the red car. The problem with that particular sculpture is the Public Art Master Plan won't allow a copy of a work. So he would have to create an original work, but maybe it could be the back side of a red car instead of the front side, and you could put it at the back of the museum. You know what I'm saying, right?
I do know what you're saying, and it would say the Redondo Beach on it instead of Long Beach. It would have a different number.
Yeah.
He can make the dimensions different depending on what the size they need over there. The nice thing is he's actually done work in Redondo Beach, so the sales over by the post office, that's his work of art. So he's already a known person in the community, and he may be able to come up with a different concept of the same concept so that it meets the criteria. I don't know much about the transit center. I do know that the original piece of art that they were supposed to put in there is not the artist. They're moving it, so there's an opportunity and funding to actually have
So
this put together.
they meet next Wednesday. Maybe one of you wants to say something during public comment about that.
Yep, and that's why I'm going to send you a copy of the slide, so you will at least have the information that you can share with them. I assume tomorrow is your deadline.
Send it to this person over here. Send it, oh, yeah, okay, I'll share it with them.
Okay. And when you say that the fountain is not coming back, is that like written in stone, or is that just?
It's gone. There is no fountain anymore.
They don't have the brick around it anymore? It's just.
No, I mean, whatever is there is still there. It's nothing additional is gone. So there is an empty hole there.
Where did the fountain go? I thought it went to storage.
It was destroyed. It was in such bad shape, they just got rid of it.
Okay. Well, that's something that's going to be generated, I think, from Recs and Parks first. They're going to be looking at stuff, and that's probably who we need to talk to.
Oh,
Okay.
that little space right there is theirs? I guess, and yeah.
Well, Commissioner Collins volunteered his sculpture from his house to be in there.
Right. Right, it's from Tuscany, it's beautiful.
But it does need to be retiled, and we were told at one point that they were talking about at least retiling it and repairing it. And
Well, but maybe you want to think about something other than a fountain.
so put the square peg in the round hole.
How difficult would it be to, I mean, you got to put a sculpture on a mount anyway, fill it in with concrete and put a sculpture there.
Okay. Anybody interested in thinking about that concept?
What, filling it with concrete?
A sculpture
Listen,
part.
anything is better than what's there right now. There's nothing there, you know?
I mean, I think if a joint proposal came from you and the Historical Society, it would carry a lot of weight.
Okay.
Because
Anybody interested
you're the two
in-
tenants that share that property,
Yeah,
you know, and maybe get some dogs to agree.
yeah, listen.
I would like a
You know,
fountain, water.
I'm happy
feature.
to fill it with dirt and plant a tree or, you know, flowers in there. Anything. It doesn't need to, you know, be filled with water.
Well,
So do you
Water.
want to spearhead coming
Yeah,
up
I'll
with
go to
a
Home
concept?
Depot and get the tree. I don't, you know.
Why don't you come back to the next meeting with like 4 or 5 different concepts of what you think?
I'll come back with 4 or 5
Lemon.
estimates of trees and, you know.
Well, you got, but make sure that other people, go, yeah.
lemon tree?
The lemon tree? Yeah, I'm good.
I mean, I like the water feature, but if we have to.
Yeah.
Lemon tree might be nice.
Yeah, because the trees on the north side of the museum look really stressed.
Yes.
But maybe with all the rain, they'll come back. Who knows?
Okay, so Commissioner Cullen will come up with 4 or 5 different concepts for it.
Yeah. Mandarin, pear, peach, Meyer, right? You get the
Well, and
picture here.
talk to, you know, the arborists too, because, you know, they had that whole tree ordinance thing last night. And the city has identified the types of trees that that they want people to plant, I believe.
Yes.
And I don't think fruit trees were.
They weren't, but this is,
Oh, you were there too?
yes, they weren't, but this might be an exception because it's still a draft. So that's still on the table and probably will receive a lot more meetings and deep discussion. So we may be able to get that Meyer mandarin in before.
Right,
ahead of
there's
that.
just so much red tape,
Ahead of that.
in this. in
You
this
have to
town.
go through at least two commissions to
Ordinance
get
is
it
not
out there
passed.
anyway.
Yeah.
Because it still has to be approved by the Parks and Rec Commission.
Do it.
Hey,
Would love it.
and then the city staff has to approve
You
it,
don't
and
need to
Public
know.
Works
I'm
has to
just gonna
approve
get a
putting it
truck
in.
and go get it.
Okay, so I think that takes care of the committee reports. I want to know if there's any public comment on any of the committee reports.
There are no public comments.
Okay, so can I get a motion to receive and file the committee reports, the oral committee reports?
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Cullen, is there a second? Commissioner Fernandez? Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of receiving and filing the oral report, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay, so the committee reports are received and filed. Now we move to the draft strategic plan. So one of the, this is, as you recall, just some history, we started this process last year to come up with a strategic plan so that we can figure out what we wanted to do with the money that we were being requesting, and also to kind of set our priorities in play. And we had several months where we had very limited response from the commission. So I, at one point, said I'll write up a strategic plan. And then Mr. Margolis said, let me have a shot at it first. And so this is the draft that he's put together for the strategic plan. Some of it is we do need to talk about because ultimately it may not be feasible, but other parts are visual, are something we can aspire to. So last month when this was brought up, I asked everybody to take a look at the strategic plan, come up with some of their thoughts and questions, and then we could have a robust discussion today on it. So I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Margolis to describe a little bit more about the strategic plan. You don't want to?
It is what it is. I mean, it's there for you guys to comment on. I think your introduction was fine.
Okay. Any thoughts or comments from the commission at this point? Okay. So to me, the goal number 2, develop human resources, is probably the most important part that we need to, at least on the short-term basis, get in play. We need to be able to open our museum to more regular hours. We need the staffing there. We need the volunteering there. We need our policies and procedures updated, and I'll talk about that because we do have a docent kind of program. We need our volunteer package, and we need a volunteer recognition plan. So that to me is probably the highest priority, is to get us so we can get our museum back and running. And once we get the museum back and running, then things like goal number 1, improving exhibitions and programming, audience development would actually start coming out more. Accessibility, I think, is important as well. So I'm, again, looking for thoughts and ideas, and maybe when you do a strategic plan, probably the most important thing about the plan is not the plan itself, but the discussion and interaction among the people creating the plan so that they have buy-in and understanding of what's going on. And I guess my starting point on this is kind of getting a flavor of how many hours do people per month devote to the museum, because the strategic plan only relates to the museum. And so I'm going to ask each one of you that question. How many hours a month do you devote to the historical museum? And if you had 5 additional hours that were free without any other commitment, what would you say is would be your priority for that? So I'm going to start with you, Commissioner Warstedt, since you're sitting off to my right all by yourself.
So for me, it's continuing, really bringing out the storytellers, because that's my favorite part of being a volunteer at the museum, and just really just listening to the rich history and watching people's faces light up with a smile when they're sharing that, and recognizing the clippings and all the various items we have on display. So I would just kind of push for that, to just encourage people to come in and just tell their story and just make themselves at home.
Okay, and the first question, how many hours per month would you?
So, and you said if it were extended by roughly 5, is that just a base
Oh, I thought
number?
your answer right now is if you had 5 additional hours, that's
Yeah.
what you'd be devoting.
Yes.
But approximately how many hours would you say a month?
I mean, I haven't been there in so long. I'm trying to calculate what would it be about 4 hours that I've been doing?
Okay.
Would you say?
Okay, 4 hours a month. And you'd bring out the storytellers.
Yes.
So, okay, so you'd be more into the programming stuff.
Yes,
Okay.
at this time. I mean, it's fluid. It changes wherever the need is, but that's something with the additional hours I would be welcoming and working on.
Okay.
May I ask a follow-up question?
Go ahead.
So I understand that something that you would like to see more of at the museum, are the storytellers. And we talked about earlier about a flyer and other possible ways to identify them and bring them in. But if you were trapped in the museum for 5 hours,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
What would you do there? What would be your favorite thing to do?
Well, I would be working on the curating the collections, because that's where I first began. So I would actually, it would be kind of push come to shove in a nice way. I would be working on that. That would be my answer for you.
That's kind of where you wanted to go with it, right?
Yeah.
Got it.
So you're trapped for 5 hours.
trap
in the
part
museum.
is
Yeah,
like,
as soon as you
that-
said that, that's what I would be doing. And maybe cleaning the floors a little, because boy, they need it. Just saying.
They will be cleaned for Saturday.
Thank you. Yes, finally, yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Commissioner Fernandez?
I haven't devoted a lot of time to the museum, schedules being what they may. An area of interest for me would probably be just the organization and the flow of the museum, because I feel like it's gotten, from the time I've been in there, there's a lot of stuff in there. And if you don't know, it can be hard to navigate on an initial walkthrough. What is the story? If you're looking for the story that museum tells, I think it speaks with a lot of voices. So I'd love to kind of streamline that a little bit so that we can kind of, so for either the average person that walks off the street, or more likely the third grader that has to go through there, they get something of value out of it, and they learn something a little something about where they live that would be of interest to them, that they would take with them out after they walked out.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Margolis?
That's good. I like that.
Okay, Mr. Cullen?
My interest is in learning what it is, what items we have that have been acquired over time for the museum, and where all these items are throughout the city. I mean, it's not just the library or the museum itself, but we have things at the Performing Arts Center. I'd like to know if there are any other historical items that, have been donated that are in other places in the city that perhaps we can just centralize and bring everything together so that it's not just spread out. Nobody knows quite what's there. For me, my interest is in the physical plant of the museum and the Morale House and the Rose Garden, because everybody who drives by sees that. They're not going to see what's inside. And so my interest is in making sure that it's an eye catcher of a facility. Having walked that Morel House to the location where it is back in the 80s, for me, seeing that and seeing the lot in the museum there, it's important that it look its best. I think we have a lot of things in the museum. We have a lot of things that could maybe be brought to the museum, but we've got major space limitations. And so maybe we can't bring anything more right now. So for me, just the outside right now is the most important thing to me. You just maintain it, get it improved. And if that means getting a statue or doing something with the fountain, I'd like to see that, given a priority so that hole is not there. It's been there. It's been like that for a long time.
Okay.
So, you go ahead.
No, you have questions for me?
Well, no, just those three comments, when you think about the three most important things that have to happen in a museum, the three priorities are facilities, exhibits, collection. I mean, you guys didn't overlap. So like, if you didn't have jobs, if you didn't have other work that you had to do, if you had, unlimited time, the museum could run, and you had the expertise to do what your passion was. We got three people to run a great history museum because you each have the interest to do the three most important things.
It's a great way of looking at it. Yeah.
So quit your jobs and do it.
Right? Right.
For tomorrow,
Yeah, we can all live in garages.
I can be the innkeeper at the Queen Anne. I have no problem with that. Just give me a little security and a little cot in the back.
Okay, so that's helpful. I probably have been spending on average close to 10 hours a month dealing with different museum stuff. I'm actually, one of the concepts was to get all the stuff outdoors so people don't, because we have limited space in the museum, and that's one of the reasons I keep on asking about moving that picture so that we have other things that actually have some historical content to it, like the Pat Dreisler picture and honoring her, as well as we have some other exhibits that we'd like to be able to bring in. Signage, I think, is important. And just so you know, I did ask one of our volunteers to pick 3 items to make signs and just develop a sign that we can put up there. So we have some sort of roadmap that people can come in the museum and get some understanding from it. My big thing is just getting things outdoors because we have limited space. We get the timeline on the walkway over there with the QR codes, and the stories can come into there. I think that would be great. The stuff with, the sculpture that has history, the murals, and things similar to that, the path of history. I mean, the path of history is actually one way of getting the museum outdoors so people won't, if we close down ever again, or we can't get it up to full speed, and they come by the museum, they'll see that there's at least some historical stuff that they can actually learn from it. And whether it's, moving things around, we probably will need to focus on where do we have secure, climate-controlled storage that we can actually rotate our museum. Because I think one of the concepts you mentioned is have a small permanent collection and rotate other exhibits in there. This charter history is going to be one of those things that we rotate in. We've had stuff of women in Redondo that's been in there. You'll see cardboard cutouts of police programs that have been in there. So we need to have the ability to have the space to rotate everything. The beautiful thing about old buildings is they have windows with lots of natural light coming in. You don't have to turn on the lights to see things in the museum, but at the same token, you will have you don't have as much wall space to put stuff up there, and it's not exactly the biggest, widest thing in the world. We found that out when we did the first Cesar Hernandez Day, that you really don't have much physical space to actually maneuver around in there. And when we did programs, we did one program in November where we had 15 chairs laid out over there, but that kind of got in the way of people actually enjoying the exhibits. So we need to figure out the space thing. And I think one of the things, once we figure out how we're going to decide to move things around, and maybe that's something Commissioner Orsted and myself and maybe Commissioner Cullen can think about, is what do we want our protocol is to be if we want to move things around. We have the display case, which is designed to free up walls, but we also have some other things that can free up space, or we can reconstitute some of the space. And so that's part of, I think, the overall strategic plan. But for me, the biggest issue is, can we get the human resources in there to keep that museum open so the public can even give us feedback on it? And we have some dedicated volunteers, but we may need more. Okay, any other comments about the strategic plan? Okay, I'm going to suggest that we table the discussion. We have 2 other commissioners who haven't had an opportunity to comment on it. And for all I know, we may end up getting a 3rd new commissioner on board by the next meeting, and we'll get some more feedback on it. Is that okay with you, Mr. Margolis, as a plan? Okay. In the meantime, all of you can start thinking about it. I think it was great that you talked about things that would excite you if you had more time. And maybe one of the concepts is, in your spare time, think about it. I know you, Commissioner Fernandez, are going to be going into tax season relatively soon, so we may not be seeing as much of you anymore. But, your brain's always functioning. So, write down things as you see them that you think would be, enhancing the museum experience for people. And we did have that report from, I forgot the name of them now.
Claro?
What?
Claro?
That I think all of you have received a copy of. And it has ideas. I mean, one of the concepts that I'm starting to come around to is the selfie spot, where you can take a picture with something there, and it doesn't have to be inside the museum. It could be outside the museum. Okay, so what I'm looking for is a motion to table this to the next meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, before I do that, does anybody have any comments from the public? Actually, I know we have a high school student here, but I don't know if you've been to the museum lately and have some thoughts about what would make it a more enhanced experience.
I haven't visited actually, but being here,
They drive
it's
past
kind
it
of
every
making
day.
exciting to go. I
Well,
know
it's
my
not
daughter
open.
in 5th grade did a report on Redondo, and just trying to find things to kind of understand the history of it was kind of difficult. So this is exciting to kind of listen to that you guys are trying to put that information out to people to know the history of Redondo.
So I would encourage you to come to the museum on
Yeah.
Saturday and then give us your feedback on it, because I think if it's your first time there, you'll be able to at least share with us some thoughts
Yeah,
about
we'll
how to make it
find out.
better. Great.
It's in Dominguez Park.
Yeah, I know, we drive by it every day because we live in North Redondo to take them to high school.
Oh, yeah.
It's on our way every day, so.
And one of the things we were trying to do is get a docent program for high school students so that they could actually have something constructive on their resume when they apply to colleges.
No, definitely.
And they, to say, hey, I've been doing museum volunteer work for X number of years. I think colleges like that skill set. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Any other public comments?
There are no public comments.
Sir, you've joined us every meeting we've had for the last little time. Do you want to say anything at this point? If not, okay, then we will move on to the vote on it. All those in favor of tabling this to the next meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay, so this is tabled to the next meeting. Moving on to item K, member items and referral to staff. I'll start with you again, Commissioner Warstadt, since you're on my right. Do you have any member items or referral to staff?
So for referrals to staff, how easy is it to navigate on the city website? Is there a application for volunteers? I have somebody that was asking me where she would find that.
The exact location for the volunteers application, is that on the city clerk's page? Are there any links there from community services? Do you know?
So at this time, I know that community volunteers are limited to senior family services, the police department, and one other department. I can find out more, but
Well, we know it applies to us because we actually do have, we're all approved volunteers at this point. We have non-commissioned people who are volunteers as well. So there's.
I think the museum is approved, but do you know where the application is?
not, no.
Well, I'll have to get back to you on that.
And Kelly may know that because I think she handles all of our applications.
I mean, I know we've forwarded, but I'd have to look to see exactly where it lives.
Okay.
I think it's an online form or
Or,
something.
I mean, we can put it on the museum's page.
Okay, anything else?
No, not at this.
Okay, Commissioner Fernandez?
No items at this time.
Okay, and Commissioner Colon?
I did speak with the former mayor, Barbara Dorr. Barbara was the mayor in the 80s, and she was also councilwoman of District 1 back in the 80s, and kind of gave her an overview of what's happening in the city, all the good things, and she sends her good wishes to all of us here in Redondo Beach. She's up in Morro Bay now and still politically active in that town, in her 80s.
No.
Yeah, and nothing else.
Okay. I have a number of items, and so do you know what the budget cycle is to come up with the next budget proposal? Is that coming up in March or February?
I believe they started in March, yeah.
So what do we need to get to you and by when so that you can know what our requests are for next year once we figure out what we want to do with this year's money?
Don't wait for me to give you a date. Do it as soon as you can.
But it goes through you though, ultimately.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I haven't been given any instructions, so, it theoretically, it's possible that someone could tell me, hey, we need it tomorrow. So as soon as you're ready, as soon as you can put something together, give it to me so that I have it when they tell me that they want it.
Okay. Do you have time in the next couple of weeks to?
But you really
do
need to
stuff?
spend the money that you have.
Do what?
To come up with a budget
Right.
request.
I'm trying to spend some of it making copies of artwork, and you guys are just like a roadblock here.
I'm trying to spend some of it getting
Trees.
a
Trees.
display case that's been approved.
I'm looking.
Okay. I know you gave me an update with regards to the staff position that we've been requesting for a number of times. And I can fill in the rest of the commission unless you want to tell us about the job description and where that's at.
We've found out that there's a form that needs to be completed. So we did that, and it was signed off by the department director and forwarded to HR. And we're waiting for them to approve it and post the specific description for a docent. So it'll still fall under the recreation leader classification, but instead of saying recreation leader, someone who enjoys working with 10-year-olds, it'll say recreation leader dash museum docent, and there'll be a specific description of the kinds of things that a museum docent would do.
Is it premature to share with us the description, or do you want to wait till you get HR approval?
I think I could do that at the next meeting. I mean, I'll ask for permission, but I don't see, it would be something that you could theoretically edit if you wanted to, so I don't see why that would be a problem.
Okay. I would,
Share it with you, didn't I?
what?
I did share it with, no, I didn't.
No, you didn't. And at that point, it was still very preliminary. You hadn't finalized it up the ladder. I would like to set up a meeting with you and somebody from IT to talk about upgrading our computer system at the library, at the museum, and getting the Wi-Fi issue kind of started a conversation on that, how we're going to do that.
Well, I did put in a work order for the Wi-Fi, so that process involves IT communicating with, whether it's Spectrum or Frontier, to find out if there's a location that's close enough that the Wi-Fi can just draw from there, or if they have to do trenching. If they have to do trenching, then the cost would be exorbitant. If it's something that, if they already have a hotspot or whatever it's called, that the museum could draw off of, that's very affordable.
Okay. So
They have all those power lines over the dog park,
Yeah,
right?
a lot of plants over there too.
Right. We just,
okay, so
Take somebody's Wi-Fi
are you
from a nearby
suggesting
house.
that I wait till you find out what's going on with the work order, or do
Well,
you
I
want
mean,
to?
we can work on that's a different topic, the website was.
The computer system,
Yeah.
just to bring it in and talk about the scanner as well, and
Right. But, if you want to use your money to buy a computer that's not connected to the internet, just so that you can start doing collections management, you don't have to be connected to the internet or to do scanning. I mean, I think you might be right that just buy a scanner, buy a computer. I mean, let's check with IT to make sure they wouldn't.
usually with companies, there's certain specifications of different kind of computers that they allow into their network.
And by companies, you mean like the city of Redondo Beach?
Yeah, like the city. I don't know what they are, but that's something that's worth exploring with IT. If they have any limitations, for example.
So you want me to ask them if they're okay with you going off and buying your own?
Well, the city will be the one who has.
right. Office Depot. They got a bunch of really good stuff.
I'll ask them.
That's not a plug. Okay, moving on. I mentioned to you that there's these, so the digital photo frames now are such that you can rotate pictures in them a lot. And rather than getting a very large flat screen initially, we can get these digital photo frames that rotate the pictures. And ultimately we can put, pictures from the city, little descriptions on it, and it can be rotating. So they hold several gigabytes, so we'd be able to do that. They're not that expensive, and hopefully we'll have something to tell you at the next meeting that we've ordered some. You mentioned the cleaning that's coming up for Saturday.
Have you identified space on the wall to put them?
I'm going to have you remove that.
Oh, that's what you want to go there?
That's one of the places. If we get the new display case, I have a lot more wall space already and lined up. So I've been looking at different ways that we can get wall space. And that picture is one of them that's kind of limiting.
Well, I think the commission should approve that kind of that's kind of permanent, right? You're going to install a digital frame on a wall, right? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm going to hang a digital frame on a wall, so I'm not installing it. It doesn't require electrical, as far as I know.
Oh, okay.
And it's under $200.
And then what'd you ask me, what'd you ask me about?
Cleaning. You
That's
said there was
happening-
cleaning.
That's happening tomorrow.
Okay, is that going to be a regular basis?
What I can offer to you, I think, is that it can be as regular as the museum is, right? So I'm not going to send people over there to clean if the museum isn't going to be open. If you're going to be open for an event, I think I can arrange to have it cleaned prior. So right now you're talking about once every few months, right?
No, you've made a proposal, which I haven't talked about yet, which is,
Okay.
which is going to have it twice a month.
And definitely for the second annual Cesar Hernandez.
Definitely.
And the city birthday, definitely.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I assume that includes doing the floors, because
Yep.
that's all I've been hearing from one person on this dais who
Yep.
has offered to do it herself, and it's like,
Well, I sweep when I'm there, but I haven't gotten into any mopping and I don't want to
put
disturb
the finishing on it, yeah.
finish of the floor. So, if I may, because of the torrential rains, has it had a visual exterior and interior inspection recently? And also just that large magnolia tree, has everything been
No, but
inspected?
I would think that the folks at the Morel House would have sent something. When was the last time have you been there since the rain?
Since this last rain?
Yeah.
No.
Actually, I'm there almost every Saturday around the outside of it because I take my dog over to the park. So I haven't noticed.
The Morel House has a new roof, so they're not going to have issues. It does get
Inside,
musty in
I
there.
wouldn't know.
What?
Well, we'll know tomorrow because they're going to be cleaning it. So if there's a problem, I'll
Yeah, and
find out.
I think we had a last visual inspection like in October where we went around and made notes of all the things that were falling apart over there.
Yeah, this is more relative to just the impact of the atmospheric river and just the torrential storms. Hopefully all is well. I'm going to be optimistic, but sometimes it does need a survey on the interior and things like this.
Okay. You can come early if you want to, and we can also do that inspection. Okay, so I talked about the protocol for moving and handling displays, and I'll get together with Steve and Commissioner Cullen and Commissioner Warstadt to come up with some sort of protocol, or at least a way that we can approve more relocating pieces in the museum and sending off to storage or whatever. Does the city send a thank you or some sort of recognition to former Commissioner Comiato for his volunteer service, both as a volunteer at the museum as well as being a commissioner? Is that something
I
that,
don't know.
Okay, we got 11 grand, cut him a check and a thank you card.
Flowers.
okay.
Have you?
What?
Have any of you ever volunteered on another commission and then ended your?
Yeah,
Did you get a thank you when your service ended?
I went straight to the city council.
Well, but that wouldn't change whether or not, if there was
Did
a
I get
protocol.
something from it?
If there was a
No, I
No, I
protocol
don't
for
think I
thank you.
did get anything.
When you get termed out, they do present plaques to them, but I don't know what happens in a resignation. So I think he should be recognized somehow, either by commission as a whole or by the city, to thank him again, because we wouldn't have been able to open the museum at all but for his help in getting the interior cleaned up in at least enough of a way that we could actually have the public in there. Okay. Docent handbook, we have some preliminary steps on it, and my suggestion is Commissioner Warstadt and our volunteer, Vanessa, would put together some sort of handbook, because we seem to be the primary 3 volunteers there at the museum, and just kind of put something at least preliminary together for you to review. And we can start doing that on Saturday if you want. Okay. Would be nice, and we have an old city hall. I assume we still have some plans for the old city hall. I know they have a copier in the planning department. It would be nice for the museum to get a set of plans for the old city hall, the one that was down on Benicia Street. I think Brandy Forbes is the person that does it, but she's a different department, so I don't know if it makes more sense to go through staff to staff or have us bug her directly as individual commissioners. And I'll leave it to your discretion, which you think is a more
Do a public
appropriate.
records request.
Okay.
Right. Listen, they
I
didn't
bet
care
I
about
bet
the
you'll get it
building. You think they
faster.
cared about the plans to the building they tore down? No.
What?
They didn't care about the building when they tore it down. You think they saved the plans? know.
I think they did. History makers for next meeting, hopefully we'll come up with some names that we, make a list of all the people we think would be really good. I think you've mentioned 4 or 5 over time, Commissioner Cullen. And I would hope that we can at least get that program going again.
There might be a cost if you do a public records request, and they may not, they may just give you an 8.5 by 11 version of it.
Well, as I said, you tell me if you think it should be coming from us directly or whether it should be going through city staff, like through, you bring it up to your director who then brings it up to her since she's a department head as well.
I think you know the answer to that question better than I do.
Okay, well, I'm happy to do it. I don't have a problem doing it.
I'd say give it a try.
Okay. I just don't want you to get the repercussions of why are these people on the historical commission making these demands on us and I'd rather at least you be in the loop on it. And
I will ask. Okay, don't do anything until I'll check with my supervisor and see what his recommendation is.
okay. And we're going to you and I are going to get together on the Path of History markers on the website, the virtual Path of History. And the public arts transit piece for Vogel, I will get you a picture of it. I can give you one now, but I'll get you more of a graphic one that you can actually insert in any report you want to do. So you'll have a digital version
A
of it.
better one than the one I sent you?
Okay, well then.
No, I'm asking, is it a better one?
No.
Oh, then I have one,
Okay.
don't I?
I don't know, but
'Cause I sent you one.
okay, then I'll leave that to you to get it somehow. I'll come to the meeting. I don't have a problem doing that.
Oh, because you want it. I see what you're saying now.
So they can see what it is, whether it's, a PowerPoint thing that goes on the screen or whatever, so they can see the visual of what it looks like. We can talk offline, but
Okay.
that's important. And I'll check back with you actually, about the plaque for the Ito Park. We have a conceptual plan for Ito Park that's been approved by the Public Arts Commission, the Historical Commission, and the Parks and Recs Commission. And at some point, we need to figure out what the status of where it's going with that concept. I think it was going to end up in Public Works at one point for some pricing on it.
I think the last thing Kelly told us was that it's going to go to the budget as a CIP.
Okay.
So when they start the budget process for next year, that should be one of the CIP projects that gets discussed.
Do we as a commission need to do anything else at this point or just leave it to the
I think
processes?
that's in rec, Park and Recs or whatever that department is called.
Okay.
I think it's in their ballpark. No
Okay.
pun intended.
The Seaside Lagoon Path of History location, does any action taken on that? As far as figuring out if you want to put it in one of those 8 locations I sent you, or is it still hanging on the fence, or is it?
Oh, yeah. No, I have, did I send those pictures to? Let me check on that. I think, let me find out.
Okay. And we have a signed contract with Hunt Designs for Path of
There's
History.
no money there.
It's all gone?
It's all gone.
Can we get an
In
account?
fact, if you remember, when we paid for the last Path of History marker, we had to take money out of another account to pay for that.
No, but there's a $12,000 contract, so we burned through $12,000 on,
When I go and I look at the budget, when I go and I look at the financial accounting software, it's gone. There's no money in that account.
I'm not talking about how much money is in the account. We had a contract for up to $12,000. And they were going to progress bill us.
Yeah, no, it's been
So
spent.
you're saying you spent more than $12,000 already. So that doesn't make any sense given what she told initially, so.
Well, I'll try to
I
get,
understand there's no money to pay for anything else, but we're raising funds now. But my concern is the contract, if you're telling me that that's been fully exhausted, then it doesn't make any sense because we're only talking 3 signs and that
oh
was
no,
not.
but that money was used for other things. It wasn't just used for Path of History. Her contract was, or his, I don't know who's what, was for citywide graphic design.
No, that contract specifically was for Path of History.
That's not my understanding.
That's my understanding and I reviewed the contract.
We need receipts.
What?
We need receipts.
Yeah, so if you don't have a problem with it, I'm going to talk to Cameron directly about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if not, we are raising money for other signs and we need to get the design work done on it. She's got one that's been designed, but we just need to send it off to fabrication. Okay. So Riviera Village used to have a different logo. It was a tree logo, and the guy who designed it was a high school student for the Redondo Union when he designed it, and he's given us some plaques, and we'd like to present the plaque at the museum and have him come in and talk about that. One of the other reasons I need to move that painting, because I think those would go really well over there. So I'm just mentioning that.
And you know, I am hoping that you're going to develop an accession policy so that you're not just taking in everything that everybody wants to get out of their garage.
We should only be so
I mean,
lucky.
I'm not saying that is not something that we should have in the museum. But what's troubling is when we come to a meeting and we say, this is coming in, this is coming in, this is coming in, and there hasn't been a process to review it against a criteria.
Historical is the criteria at this point. Any pictures, I don't see any harm in accepting it, especially if it's digitized already. Movies, those 16 millimeter movies, it's actually historical now because I don't know if they passed it yesterday to destroy the sports fishing pier, but that's all about sports fishing. So
Well, that is something I did want to mention, that they did pass the demolition of the pier. So I don't know if that's something that you want to chronicle. I mean, that's definitely going to be historical, right?
it is. And we actually have movies of people sports fishing.
But I mean, you might want to document the actual demolition.
Yeah. I agree. So we do not have an official gift acceptance policy other than the discretion of you, who is now the staff person for it. But this one was green lighted and it's actually well done and it does pertain to history of the community and it's pretty unique as far as that goes. But there's other things. I know that if Commissioner Cullen went to a bunch of swap meets, we would not necessarily want all this stuff in there, but there's enough of it. Oh, that's interesting. Anyway, there is a foundation for an archivist if we need one, and I'm going to look into that and see if they provide archivists, professional archivists to different museums. I'm going to see if that's something that is A, feasible within our budget, and B, would be a benefit. So I'll be coming back to you with a proposal on that. And I think that's about it for my discussion, unless you think I'm missing something. Okay. So I will take one more opportunity for the public to comment on anything that's happened. Any comments on Zoom?
There are no public comments.
Okay, so we're moving on to item number L, which is the adjournment. And I will read this part out. The next meeting of the Redondo Beach Historical Commission will be a regular meeting to be held at 7 p.m. on February 15, 2023, in the Redondo Beach Council Chambers, 415 Diamond Street, Redondo Beach, California. It's the intention of the city of Redondo Beach to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act in all respects. If as an attendee or a participant at the meeting, you will need special assistance beyond what is normally provided, the city will attempt to accommodate you in every reasonable manner. Please contact the city clerk's office at 310-318-0656 at least 48 hours prior to the meeting to inform us of your particular needs and to determine if an accommodation is feasible. Please advise us at that time if you'll need accommodations to attend or participate in meetings on a regular basis. An agenda packet is available 24 hours a day at www.redondo.org under the City Clerk tab. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Commissioner Cullen, Commissioner Fernandez, a second. Can we get a roll call on that, please?
Yes? Commissioner Collin?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Chairperson Morocco?
Yes.
Commissioner Warstadt?
Yes.
And Commissioners Zaremski and Klinger are absent.
So we are adjourned at 8:33. Thank you all for attending. If you have any questions afterwards, we'll probably be around here to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.
What was that whole thing about? What's Texas?
Thank you.